Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Exosister deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck has been doing extremely well in the meta recently and is a really fun deck to be able to play because every time your opponent moves a cards out of the graveyard, you actually get to upgrade your Exosister monsters into XZ monsters, which is absolutely crazy. This deck can make one card XZ summons. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Exosister Martha. This card is a great 3-up that you always want to see in your opening hand because she has an absolutely insane effect. And if you control no monsters or only XZ monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you do, special summon an Exosister Elise from your deck. And you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect except Exosister monsters, which is not that big of a deal because that's pretty much all we're summoning anyways. And she also has the ability that if a card moves out of either player's graveyard except during the damage step, you can special summon from your X deck one Exosister XZ monster using this face-up card you control as a material, and this is treated as an XZ summon. Now that's absolutely an insane effect because it works with cards like DD Crow, but Exosister Martha is the only one that works like that, which is absolutely crazy. And it's a really cool effect that either player with Martha can actually move a card out of the graveyard and she will go into a different form, into one of your XZ monsters, which is just super cool. We then play 3 copies of Exosister Elise. Elise is a great 3-of in the deck as well, because if you control an Exosister monster, you can special summon her from your hand. Then if you control an Exosister Stella, then you gain 800 life points. And if your opponent moves a card, now this is the effect that all of the other Exosister monsters share, that if your opponent moves a card out of either player's graveyard except during the damage step, you can special summon from your X deck one Exosister XZ monster using this face-up card you control as a material, and it is treated as an XZ summon, which is the common effect that all of the rest of your Exosister monsters, including Elise, actually share. We then play 3 copies of Exosister Stella. Stella is also a great 3-of in the deck as well, and she has the ability that during the main phase, you can special summon an Exosister monster in your hand, and if you control a copy of Elise, you gain 800 life points, which is a pretty good effect. We then play 2 copies of Sophia. Sophia is just a good 2-of in the deck. You don't really need any more than 2 of her. She's almost like an upstart goblin, because if you control an Exosister monster, you can draw a card, and then if you control an Exosister Irene, you gain 800 life points, which is pretty good. And then finally, I just play a single copy of Irene. I think Irene is just a great 1-of. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card, but she has the ability that you can place an Exosister card from your hand on the bottom of the deck and then draw a card, which can come in handy every so often, but I feel like 1 is totally fine. For the hand traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dimensional Shifter. This card is absolutely insane in the current meta. This card has the ability, if you have no cards in your graveyard, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the grave, and until the end of the next turn, any card sent to the grave is banished instead. Now this is absolutely insane against Sprite, it's absolutely insane against Tier Limit. It's just a really good card because there's so many graveyard reliant decks right now that you just send this card to the grave and it pretty much turns your opponent's entire turn off, which is absolutely crazy because this deck doesn't really care if our cards get banished. It's just really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a really good card overall in this deck, and it's just the best hand trap overall ever created, and it's really good to stop the opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of DD Crow, which is actually a combo piece with our copy of Martha, because you can use the effect of DD Crow to banish a card out of the graveyard, and then Martha will go off special summoning an XZ version of a monster from your X deck that is an Exosister monster. Plus this card comes in extremely handy to be able to get cards out of the opponent's graveyard that they might need, so this card is a definite 3-of in this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is a really good 1-of the deck that can help us out a lot in a lot of different situations, just to be able to stop our opponent from hand trapping us. I then play a single copy of Double or Nothing. I do like to close out games with our copy of Utopia Double, which is just a really awesome card in the extra deck, because all you have to do is make a copy of Utopia Double, detach your material, search this from deck to hand, make a copy of Utopia on top of the Utopia Double. It comes out at 5,000 attack points, swing into into an opponent's monster, negate the attack with Utopia's effect, and then drop double or nothing to go back in for 10,000 attack points, being able to OTK the opponent. And I guarantee you, your opponent won't see it coming, which is absolutely insane. We then play a single copy of Exosister Armament. This card is basically like a rank up magic monster, or rank up magic XZ card. It has the ability that you pay 800 life points to target an Exosister monster you control, and special summon one Exosister XZ monster from your X deck with a different name than that card you control, by using the targeted monster as a material to summon that monster trying to summon from the X deck, which is a really cool effect, and it is treated as an XZ summon, but it's a really cool card in this deck, especially if one of your Exosister monsters is being targeted by like a copy of Effect Veiler or Imperm. This card can help you dodge those cards, which is really nice, but this card is just really good overall as a one of in the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card, but it's just a really good card overall. You can play two if you want to, but I really like this card as a one of. I then play 3 copies of Exosister Pax. This card is basically the Rhoda of the deck. During the main phase, you pay 800 life points to add an Exosister card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of Pax. Then if you added a monster, by this effect, you can special summon it if the other Exosister monster mentioned in its text is on the field or in the grave, which is a really awesome effect that basically just turns this card into an unexpected die just for 800 life points, which is really crazy. I then play 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler No More is insane right now in the meta. Just being able to turn off your opponent's entire field is really good. And so this card is a definite 3 of in this build. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Exosister Vardis. Vardis is a good 2 of. I don't feel like you need any more than 2 copies of it. You could play 3, but I feel like 2 is totally fine. You pay 100 life points and choose one Exosister monster in your deck, and then take one other Exosister monster in your deck that is mentioned on that monster and special summon both, and then shuffle them into the deck during the end phase. Also, for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters from the X deck except Exosister monsters, which is not that big of a deal. I feel like this card is totally fine as a 2 of in the deck because it's easily searchable with your copies of your Exosister XZ monsters. So this card is just a 2 of in my opinion, but it's an absolutely insane 2 of in this deck because it gets you 2 monsters out on your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Returnia. Returnia is a really cool new card that is in this deck that if all monsters you control are Exosister monsters minimum 1, you pay 800 life points, target a monster or target a card your opponent controls or in their graveyard and banish it, and then apply one of the following effects to immediately that this card resolves XZ and Exosister XZ monster using monsters that you control, or if you control an XZ this turn, banish one card that your opponent controls and it doesn't target, which is absolutely crazy. So this card is a definite 2 of in the build. I don't feel like you need 3 because it is searchable, so this card is just a 2 of in the deck. I then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is really good in the deck to be able to stop your opponent's monster effects and brings a hand trap lineup to 12, which is really good in the deck. So this card is just a really good 3 of in the deck to stop the opponent from using monster effects and also locking down columns. I then play 3 copies of Gozen Match. Gozen Match is a really cool card that actually one of my friends at Local showed to me in this deck, which I got to give a quick shout out to Chandler. Thank you so much for showing this card to me. It's absolutely crazy in the deck. You pretty much only play light in the entire deck. So this card comes in extremely handy to be able to just flip against the opponent and control the board, because it makes it so either player can only control one attribute on their side of the field. And since we only summon light, it doesn't really bother us and it stops the opponent. So this card is absolutely insane as a 3 of, and thank you so much, Chandler, for showing me how powerful this card actually is. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Exosister Magnifica. Magnifica is a really good XZ monster that is just so good and made the entire deck insane. It has a really cool effect that it takes 2 rank 4 Exosister XZ monsters to make this card, and it must be XZ summoned with the above materials. And this card can make a second attack during each battle phase, which makes sense because there's 2 Exosister monsters on it. And also has the ability at once per turn, a quick effect, you can detach a material on this card and banish one card that your opponent controls. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can return 1 XZ monster, or you can actually use the ability that quick effect, you can return 1 XZ monster that you control attached to this card to your extra deck, and then you can special summon that monster from your extra deck using this card you control as a material, and it's treated as an XZ summon, which is a really, really good effect. It's just really good overall because it banishes, it can attack twice, it's just absolutely huge. You can throw it in defense position and banish a card during the opponent's turn because it's a quick effect, and then you can tag it out if it gets targeted, which is really, really cool. I then play 3 copies of McCallus. McCallus is a great 3-of in the deck. You really need to play 3 copies of McCallus. It has a really awesome effect that it cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special from the graveyard, and you can only use each of the following effects for once per turn. And if this card you control that was XZ summoned this turn using an Exosister monster as a material, then quick effect, you can target one card your opponent controls or in the grave and banish it. And you can also detach a material in this card to add an Exosister spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is why we play this card as a 3-of, and I'm only playing the traps at 2 each because you can search them off this card. I then play 2 copies of Caspatel. Caspatel is a great 2-of in the deck because it has the ability to destroy by battle with a monster special from the graveyard, and you only use each of the following effects for once per turn. That if this card is XZ summoned using Exosister monster as a material, neither player can special summon monsters from the graveyards for the rest of the turn, and you can also detach a material from this card and then add an Exosister monster from your deck to your hand, which is a good effect that basically this card is an additional searcher for your monsters alongside your copy of Pax, but it's almost kind of like an Abyss Dweller that it locks down the graveyard, which is really, really good. I then play 2 copies of Asophiel. Asophiel is a great card in the deck as well. It has the ability, if this card is XZ summoned using an Exosister monster as a material, neither player can activate the effects of cards in the graveyard this turn, which pretty much is an Abyss Dweller, which is really insane. And also has the ability you can detach a material from this card, target a monster your opponent controls, and return to the hand, giving you a bounce as well, which is absolutely crazy. So this card is a definite 2-of. I make this all the time because it's pretty much Abyss Dweller and locks down the graveyard. It's just a really good card. I then play a single copy of Jabreen. Jabreen is a good 1-of in the deck. You only need a single copy of Jabreen. She's a really good card overall because if you control this card that was XZ summoned using an Exosister monster as a material, quick effect, you can try and affect monster that your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. And also, you can detach a material in this card, and for the rest of the turn, all XZ monsters you control will gain 800 attack points, and that is a really good effect because it's constant. It doesn't just stop because this card leaves the field, and it can be summoned afterwards. For example, if I activate that effect and then I summon out a copy of, say, Magnifica, Magnifica will go up by the extra 800, going to 3600, which is really good. I then play a single copy of Utopia Double so we can go in for game with this card. This card is really good because you just make it, detach a material, search double or nothing, make a copy of Utopia on top of it. Comes out at 5,000 attack points, attack the opponent's monster. And you cannot attack directly, but attack into an opponent's monster, negate the attack, drop double or nothing, attack again for 10,000 attack points, which is really insane. But it's a really awesome effect because if your opponent controls a monster that has 2,000 or less attack points and they have a total of 8,000, you can OTK if it's in attack position, which is really good. I then play a single copy of Baguska, which is the only non-light monster I play in the extract just in case I need to lock down the board for a little bit. But this card is really, really good. Make sure that you don't summon it under Gozen match because it will lock you into Earth. So this card is just really, really good overall. And then finally, a single copy of Double Zeus for the XZ monsters. This card is really easy to summon to the field and just board wipes. So it's a definite 1-of in the deck. And then finally, a single copy of the Light Charmer. Light Charmer is just in here just in case we need to link summon and revive something from our opponent's graveyard. If our opponent does Ib lock us, we can throw a copy of one of our Exosisters on the field and link the copy of Ib away, and then, or the Nightmare Corruptor away. And with this card, which is really, really easy because it just requires 2 monsters, including a light monster, which the copy of the Nightmare Corruptor is a dark monster, and you can just use any of your Exosister monsters with that card to be able to link summon to this card, so it's our out to that combo. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really awesome deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played with Exosister, I highly recommend you give this deck a try. It's super fun to be able to play, and it's a really good counter for the meta right now because there's so many graveyard reliant decks, and it's a really insane deck, especially now that we have Martha, because Martha is just so good. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.